Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Strange Pathways. I am your host, Scott Mort. I hope you're having just an absolutely fantastic week. If I could have your ear and your heart for just a moment, I mention this website every single week, phantomsandmonsters.com. If you can find it in your heart to throw out a prayer, send some good vibes, just have a happy thought in your head for Lon Strickler of Phantoms and Monsters. They're going to be taking a break next week. Actually, it'll be tomorrow from my point of view, February 27th, 2023. They're going to take about a week off. And why? Lon's having lung surgery. A lobectomy. That's not a minor thing. It's going to be a hospital stay, several days of recuperation. So, if you could throw a prayer, some good vibes out to Lon, and Lon, I'll be doing this. You'll probably never hear this, but I hope you have a speedy and full recovery. And man, you've created something amazing. You've created something amazing, and I will be forever grateful to you. Thank you so much. Now, on to the tales. Our first tale is going to take us to San Jose, San Luis Potosi, Mexico. Either February 12th, 1965 or October of 1965. I'm getting two different dates for the same story. Now, 19-year-old Francisco Estrada Acosta, he's like a lot of 19-year-olds. He likes to go hunting. He's decided that he's going to go to this mining area that's next to the Santiago River. It makes sense to go hunting there, doesn't it? It's going to be easy access for humans because if they're mining, they're going to have access the entire time. There's going to be displaced wildlife. And more importantly, it's going to have something that Acosta really needs. Now understand, the first part of the hunt, in Acosta's mind, and rightfully so, is not the hunt for wildlife. No, the first part of this hunt is going to be for ammo. Acosta is going slingshot hunting. So the very first thing that he's going to need is slingshot ammo. Small rocks, small enough to stun or kill whatever prey he's going to find, but large, not so large that it's going to hinder the object's flight. Now, I don't know what type of slingshot that Acosta had. Whether it was, the Y-shaped piece of wood with the two bands, which are extremely powerful of themselves, or perhaps something more akin to the slingshot that David used to slay Goliath. Everybody, well, it's the story of David and Goliath is interesting to me. If I may take a little side road here. It's kind of shown as like the little guy standing up to the big giant bully, right? Goliath, this 10-foot tall giant, and David, this poor shepherd boy. But whenever you see the slingshots that they used back in those times, these leather strops that they swung around in a circle and just boom, right? It starts to look Not so much like the little guy defeating the big guy, but man, whenever you see the power of those slingshots, it really is bringing like a 22 pistol to a knife fight. Goliath had a sword, right? Even at like 10, 11, 12 foot tall, if that's what Goliath was. I think Goliath was kind of like the 8 foot, 10 foot range. Even at that point, my ceiling is 11 foot tall. I'm just kind of staring up at the ceiling trying to imagine the horror of that. But even if that were the case, the range that you could get on one of those slingshots, the accuracy that some of these people had, that obviously David had, David was the clear winner. Goliath had no chance. No chance at all. Sorry about that. Sorry about the little side trip there. But he's Francisco Estrada Acosta is bending over, and he's picking up the rocks, finding just the perfect ones. And he kind of feels that I'm being looked at. Acosta stands up, and looming over him is this 2-meter tall creature. A large oval head with red glowing eyes and a mouth large, toad-like, that stretch all across the face. Be it curiosity, maybe an act of friendship, this humanoid extended a flipper, not a hand, a flipper towards Acosta, and he touched one of Acosta's hands on the palm. Acosta later said that the touch was cold, scaly, reptilian, and it terrified him. Acosta stepped back, ran as fast as he could from the mining area. Curiosity gets the best of him, though. Curiosity, panic, fear, dread, concern, whatever you want to call it. But as he's running, Acosta decides to look back. Is he being pursued? Is he safe? The creature has extended membrane-like wings from its back. Oh, hell, Acosta thinks. This creature is going to take flight. I have no chance whatsoever. But it never happened. Acosta made it back. Now, maybe this creature was just as scared of Acosta as Acosta was of it. This story has a lot of similarities to other stories. You have the story of the Van Meter visitor. It's, that mine. Did this thing come out of the mine? It feels a lot like the Butler gargoyle. But there's one thing that it feels very, very strongly of, to me personally. This feels like Mothman. You've got the red glowing eyes. You've got the wings. Now, we've always thought of Mothman, at least I have. I've always thought of Mothman as some sort of mammal. I think other people do too. Like with a name like Mothman, most people would probably think insectoid, but I've always thought of him as some sort of mammal. They talk about him being mouse brown or mouse gray. But that red glowing eyes, the wings, maybe maybe what we're dealing with Mothman, maybe this isn't a mammal or an insectoid creature. Maybe this is some sort of reptilian or amphibious creature. Maybe these wing-like protrusions, this thing never took flight. Maybe these wing-like protrusions, maybe they're more for swimming. Remember, they are right next to the Santiago River. They're right next to the San Jose Dam. Maybe these membranes, what Acosta mistook for wings, are actually fins. There's a lot of maybes in this, but you got to admit, it's fun to ponder. On December 21st, 1903, a man was born, Robert E. Cornish. Now, it soon became apparent as Cornish got older that this was a gifted young child. Cornish graduated from the University of California in Berkeley with honors at age 18. He got his doctorate by the time he was 22. He spent his life working on various projects. There was one that allowed reading newspapers underwater with special lenses. But in 1932, Cornish became obsessed with an idea. Cornish began to think he could bring the dead back to life. Now, this plan, what can be considered the basis of this plan, was this sort of seesaw, this teeter board that was used to get blood flowing in the recently dead, and then pumping in adrenaline and anticoagulants into their circulatory system. In 1933, he gets to test this. He tried to revive victims of heart attacks, drownings with the teeter board. No success. He did manage to revive 2 dogs that were clinically put to death, May 22nd, 1934, and another one in 1935. Now, these dogs, they were called Lazarus 4 and Lazarus 5, meaning that there were some failures with 1s through 3 at the very least. I don't like that phrase, clinically put to death. Let's call it what it is. Cornish suffocated the dogs. Enter Thomas McMoneagle. An absolute monster of a man. Thomas McMoneagle was sitting on death row. He had kidnapped and murdered a 14-year-old girl, Thora Chamberlain. Her body was never found. He had confessed to a second murder. And he was condemned to the gas chamber. In 1947, Cornish petitioned the California Department of Corrections. Let me try to revive him. I've got a great idea. Let me try to bring this horrible, horrible person back from the dead. Now, the warden of San Quentin at the time, Clinton Duffy, he denied Cornish's request. He said, it takes 30 minutes to vent the fumes out of a gas chamber. And then after that, for safety's sake, the body has to remain in the chamber for at least 1 hour. Cornish was not a man to take no for an answer, so he appealed it. He even went, hey, I'll tell you what. Let's kill a sheep. Let's put a sheep in the gas chamber, and then I'll bring it back to life as a proof of concept. Duffy was not a fan of this. The California courts weren't a fan of it. On February 20th, 1948, McGonigal was put to death in the gas chamber. Man. See, now here's the thing. Do you really think that it wasn't so much that they didn't want Cornish to try to revive somebody, as it was McGonigal would have been punished? What do you do with McGonigal whenever he comes back to life? He has been put to death. He has been declared dead. The punishment has been dealt out. And then Cornish brings him back, and would he get to go free? Do we have to keep him for the rest of his days? I mean, once we get to that point, and I do believe humanity will get to the point of being able to revive the dead, I think, honestly, that we're going to get to that point a lot sooner than anyone believes. But whenever we get to that, who decides who gets to come back and who stays very, very dead? I mean, we'd all like to think that our loved ones, they get to come back, but do they? It's a financial thing. Maybe it'll be just who has the money. Maybe it'll be seen as a horrible taboo. Maybe once the spirit is separated from the body, if you revive that person, maybe that spirit doesn't come back. I'm going to get parts of this story wrong, because this I'm pulling from my head. I have notes out here about Cornish and what have you, but this I'm pulling from my head because this is me pulling stuff from memory. I wasn't prepared to talk about this, but it's kind of come in. There's a musician and movie producer, I believe his name's Liam Lynch. Had a moderate hit with United States of Whatever. If you've ever seen the movie Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, he directed that. Now, if memory serves me correctly, Liam Lynch has a dog, or rather had a dog, named Forcefield Freddy. Forcefield Freddy was hit by a car, and Liam had Forcefield Freddy cloned. And I believe he named the clone Forcefield Frank. Forcefield Frank likes playing with all of Freddy's toys. He has a similar temperament. But where it gets pretty odd is that this new Forcefield Part 2, freaks out a little bit whenever he gets near to where Forcefield 1 was hit by a car and died. Maybe memories are genetic. There's certainly scientific proof out there. Look into the story of Liam Lynch and Forcefield Freddy and Forcefield Frank. Absolutely fascinating stuff. We've all seen the photos of ghosts and ectoplasm that kind of hit hard in the last half of the 19th century. A lot of these were fake. Some of them may be real. But there was one doctor who took it a step further. He was a French physician. He was a parapsychologist. And he had the incredible name of Dr. Hippolyte Baraduc. Now, Dr. Baraduc, he didn't take photos of ghosts. Baraduc would take photos of thoughts, emotions, and even the soul. In 1896, Baraduc informed Paris Académie de Médecine, "Hey, guess what I have a photo of? Thoughts. My method's simple. The person whose thought is to be photographed enters a dark room. They place their hand on a photographic plate, and they think strongly. They concentrate on the object of the image that they wish to see produced." Now, most of what Baraduc supplied as evidence was utter crap. Cloudy blobs of nothing. If you saw an image in them, it was pareidolia at best, wishful thinking at worst. But some of these photos, according to reports, there were very, very distinct features of persons, outlines of things. Some of these were resounding successes. And quite honestly, to prove your case, you really only need one. If it happens once, it can be done. We've talked about him before on the show. There was a gentleman named Ted Sirios who claimed and did show some talent at being able to put thoughts on film. Baraduc said, "Hey, you know what? It's possible to even produce thought photos from a great distance. If the person's mind is so focused, from a distance, they can will an image from their mind onto a photographic plate." Now, his theory was that we had auras. Definitely wasn't his theory. Our emotions produce energies, and these auras and these energies, Baraduc claimed, could be put onto film. 2 years pass. The doctor addresses the Society of Psychical Sciences in Paris. And now he's telling everybody that photography can measure and register the volatile matter of which every living thing is constantly ridding itself. Baraduc had experimented on himself for 3 months. He would photograph himself whenever he felt that his soul was active. This produced images that had luminous points of light. This was whenever he said he was happy, dim whenever he was nervous or sad. And in testing other people, he found very, very similar results. He did not limit his tests to the human. He would experiment on pigeons. He would experiment on plants. He would even experiment on fresh milk. He experimented with some plants that he had gathered. He got no result, but then he tore them to pieces, crushed them in his hands. He tortured them. And he got impressions that were similar to whenever he would have somebody who was sick do these experiments. In April of 1907, Baraduc upped his game. He did something that I could not even fathom doing. If my son died, I wouldn't be concerned with some stupid experiment. But Baraduc's son did pass away at the young age of 19. For 9 hours afterwards, Baraduc photographed the coffin. And he discovered this very misty cloud on the film emanating from all around. 6 months later, October 15th, once again, I can't fathom myself doing this. Baraduc continued his studies whenever his wife Nadine was on her deathbed. And he's just standing there, snapping photos. 20 minutes after Nadine passes, Hippolyte Baraduc snaps a photo. He claims this photo shows his wife Nadine's parting soul. We'll have that image up on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, what have you. For those that aren't going to be able to get to it, it shows poor Nadine. And you see these 3 misty, glowing clouds above her body. A couple of streaks of light. Another photograph taken about 30 minutes later, you can see one large cloud. Soon after this cloud leaves the body, Baraduc said that it created an icy breeze. I can't imagine doing that. I can't imagine spending the last few moments with my wife just obsessed with this idea. In a strange way, maybe it gave Baraduc some comfort, but that's not the way I'd want to do it. Thank you for joining us once again here on Strange Pathways. Remember, those photos, they're going to be over at twitter.com, Pathways Strange. They'll be on our Instagram, Strange Pathways Podcast, and over on our Facebook group. Be sure, it was kind of a weird week. I'll try to have a few more shorts up on the YouTube channel. And while you're over at YouTube, click like, hit subscribe, ring that bell for the notifications. I'll try to get the TikTok up there too this week. It was a bit of a tough one. A lot of time this week was put towards dealing with my wife's immigration. Fingers crossed, pray for us. And while you're doing that, send another prayer out to Lon Strickler of Phantoms and Monsters. Best of luck to you, sir. If you'd like to email us, you can do so at strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. Thank you so much once again for listening. Thank you for the kind words, Blue Jasmine CERN Stormrunner, Neil Armstrong, the White. Anna, I hope your week's going better. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here again. Take care of yourselves and each other.